Welcome back to Dead Gods, my ongoing development of a new visual story. This video will cover my first pass at Flora and Fauna. There's a very serious risk of this being thought of as the boring episode, but this is also a part of world building. It's not all heroes and villains and awesome monsters. There's also the world to build. But I'll be challenging myself to make it worth your while, starting with Flora. The story will start in the wilderness and progress closer and closer to civilization, which means that early on, the shipwright will largely be moving through wild forests and fields. There are two images that I'm using as primary inspiration. Hiro Isono's famous Secret of Mana illustration, and Bernard Boutet de Monville's Diana and Actaeon. Both of these images turn the dense forest into a texture, almost like a two-dimensional pattern or tapestry. This creates opportunities to use simple shapes to tell stories or frame important elements, like the giant rectangular tree that occupies this image, or the perfectly circular stage framing hiding in plain sight here. Before I'm ready to focus on composition, I started to work on some individual elements. While there will be plenty of recognizable plant life, I wanted to explore some megaflora. In the aggressive arms race of the antediluvian period, these plants have adapted hyper-defense mechanisms, from sheer thickness to defensive spikes. And in some cases, they use offensive techniques as well. The predatory plants are my favorite. Here's a giant pitcher plant big enough for large animals to fall into. This is an idea for a deadly mangrove tree, with touch-sensitive roots that drop a heavy barbed seed into whatever unfortunate bag of nutrients happens to spring the trap. I also like this oversized snapdragon, with a carrion-scented lure and strong snapping spikes that hold its victim in place as it decays into rich fertilizer. Once I had a few elements, I thought it would be fun to test them out a little bit and arrange a few loose composition sketches to get a feel for them, focusing on using a minimal palette in each. Quick context sketches like this help to stress test ideas. I think some things worked really well, particularly the variations in fern scale on the top left, and the dramatic simplicity of the gigantic palm fronds on the bottom left. The top right didn't really click. It's a bit messy and doesn't have a strong enough identity. The fungus works well enough, but this composition isn't particularly inspiring. Thinking back to that reference material, I tried to sketch up a very simple circular composition and bend the plant life around that. Is putting a circular frame around a character with dramatic color contrast like shooting fish in a barrel? Yes. Next up, fauna, or rather megafauna, because it's time to begin exploring some of the creatures we'll be encountering. At this stage, it's all about getting familiar with the subject matter. How does the anatomy work? What kind of proportions are we working with? Trying to build up confidence. Here's an important design principle I want to use going forwards. We've all seen dinosaurs. They're cool. The versions we think of are mostly based on very reasonable, safe guesses by paleontology illustrators. Some of them are trying to get less conservative, allowing for more wild speculation. Eventually, I want to try to get crazier than them. I'm not interested in the scientific aspect of these creatures. I'm going for story and spectacle. I'll be assuming that the specimens we've found represent the average size, and I'll be going bigger, because it's fun. When it comes to color, I want to let the needs of the narrative come first. So, hopefully, these first exploration sketches will also be the most tame versions we see in this project. There's also a world of exciting possibilities when it comes to the intersection of animal and human. Harnesses, decoration, utility, protection, art, there are a lot of fun possibilities. While I could noodle forever, I'll explore this kind of thing more thoroughly as the story leaves the wilderness and enters civilization. Well, there we have it. First pass at some megaflora, as well as laying the foundation for some early creatures. I thought this would be a good chance to pull back and take a look at what's been done so far. Seeing it all together like this can often help me get my bearings. These are still early steps. One day, we'll hopefully be able to look back at a spread like this fondly, seeing just how far we've come. For now, I like where it's going. Thanks for tuning in. If you like where I'm headed enough to support this project, I've got a Patreon, or you could pick up a copy of my previous visual story, Tellurian. I've also got an art book available that collects some of my favorite personal work from the last 20 years. Pick up a copy of that, and you'll still be able to look at my art even after a solar flare wipes out the internet. See you next time.